through slavery, chattel slave. Human beings are couples by nature. We, male and female, we're made. Why were we able to do all of this through slavery, chattel slavery, this, that, but then all of a sudden, since the 1960s, we all of a sudden can't seem to act according to nature? It's the low-lying lack of respect and low-level contempt so many Black women have for the Black male image. You don't necessarily like it, but it's baked into the equation. So how are you going to end up cooperating? And here's the funny thing. I find it interesting that we're some of the most Christian people in the world, but we lack so much faith when it comes to your dealing with your men. But we get more of the same. So it comes down to trust. Is you have to trust that he's going to do the right thing and he's doing it in a good faith. And because he doesn't do it your way, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Oftentimes, our way is different than yours, and it turns out better. We just don't want to have to tell you each and every move we're making. This be like in the driver's seat. Okay, I'm going to speed up. I'm going to slow down. Okay, I'm going to swerve 10 degrees. We want to just go. And if you actually trusted where the car was going, you could enjoy the ride. Because the continual asking, are we there yet? And so forth. All you're going to do is make them say, I don't want to drive no more. And that's where the buy a dog and die alone thing. And then femininity goes along with respectful cooperation. Femininity is agreeable. Women tend to rank higher on agreeableness. But when you're inherently being disagreeable, you're inherently being in your masculine. Men are inherently disagreeable. So respectful cooperation and agreeability. You know what that equates to with most men? Peace. A man who has peace is more apt to stay involved in his situation with his woman because we understand what's out in the world. This is why also it's incumbent for women to get around women who want the same kind of outcomes and are willing to reinforce the work that all of us must do. Because the work a lot of women have to do is kind of reparenting or reprogramming yourself. And you need to be around other women who support you in that versus you stupid, that's dumb, I wouldn't do that. He taking advantage of you, You don't need to be trying to do the work and then be undermined by your friend circle. That's why it's often better to get rid of your single friends while you're doing the work so you can actually get a different outcome. So, is that it?
I have one more question for you.
Go ahead.
It seems that in my grandparents' generation, there was the ideal relationship. There was a lot more, being agreeable, cooperation. It was kind of more of a given. Mm-hmm. And 2 generations later, it seems that it's been pretty flipped. Women are a lot more independent. Women are, all that stuff. Is it possible then that my grandfather, had it great in terms of having this, cooperative wife and everything was fine, and the men see that and aspire to that and want that to continue, but maybe my grandmother or our grandmothers were fairly miserable, which is why they would whisper to the daughters, hey sweetie, get your education, make sure that you don't have to depend on a man, make sure you don't have to put up with disrespect. Is it that maybe the views of that traditional relationship?
My grandmother wasn't miserable. My grandmother was this. I'm saying, okay, are we saying that basically those relationships that we idealize, maybe they really were secretly miserable? Then I want secret miserable. Then I want secret miserable. I don't give a shit. I want secret miserable. Because back then, they actually believed in God, believed in honor, duty, respect. They didn't marry based upon their freaking feelings. They did it because because you had to submit yourself to something greater. You didn't go into a situation to talk about what can you do for me. When you were a wife, you came in knowing I got to clean, cook, I got a job to do in this house. And my job is to do this. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Part of the problem is men did our job too well. We've civilized the world so much. You don't have to deal with war, famine, plague. You can walk down the street in relative safety and not have to worry about being accosted or touched by a man that looks like you or a man that doesn't look like you. Back in my grandmother's day, There were no laws on the books that a white man was obliged to respect. So women had to deal with their men for safety, along with provision. But now safety is what? 911. You got women who are going out after dark, dressed scantily, going to clubs by themselves, getting drunk, driving home drunk, and feeling safe as hell. Because we have civilized the world too much. You want to know what it looks like? Give it coronavirus. You weren't feeling so safe then, were you? That's when you had to go out and see there's no water, there's no toilet tissue, there's no this, there's no that. And resources got scarce. And you start looking around and saying, well, how am I going to compete or get the resources that are scarce? I have no man to fight for this stuff. But you gonna come fight me? You gonna come fight your male counterparts for it? See, that's the point. So grandmothers, one, we had a community, we had a church, we had a family, we had a support system. We reinforced that stuff. Today, we have been told, we even have a new version of Christianity. It's called prosperity. God wants you to live your best life. Be happy, such and so forth. And women are getting a completely different message. It is me, 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 me. We have bred sociopaths and narcissistic tendencies, sociopathic and narcissistic tendencies. It's not about a relationship. It's not about the family name. You make the family look good. It's about me, 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 me. Well, that don't work. That doesn't work. And if you look at, and it's not just in the United States, you look at Black people in the West. I mean, hell, even on the continent, these things exist. Matriarchies don't work. Why? Because men of other groups of men they ain't threatened by y'all. You know what other groups of men do? They weaponize your sass for their financial benefit to your ruin. They'll hire you, and I want you to understand. I want you to ask yourself, look in corporate America, or look and how many Black women are in places of revenue responsibility.